coming to you from planet Earth, October 18th, 2023. This is a very important message. This is a very important message for Muslims, for immigrants, for people that claim that they are pro-freedom, right? Supposed patriots, and the people in the woke movement, right? Because we haven't seen a very awake population in the last 20 years since 9/11. We've seen a lot of ignorant Muslims, Christians, Americans, and foreigners, right? That think that America is the land of freedom and opportunity. It was for many, many years, the land of opportunity. Things have changed in recent years, and things are going to continue to change for your children. Even though you thought this was the place, right, to get away from the disasters, to get away from the wars, war is coming here, and it's coming sooner than you think. So, number one, you need to be prepared, and you need to do research into what you need to do to be prepared, because frankly, I got prepper PTSD. I've prepped so many times, and I've moved so many times, and I've left my food supply and my prepper gear so many times that it's a headache for me, folks, after leaving my land in Colorado with the stuff that I had on it, large water containers, everything, to build everything up all over again. So we'll talk about that in the future, but I want to talk to you about intellectual and spiritual survival, because the devil's biggest trick is convincing us he doesn't exist and trying to convince people that godly people are demons and that demons are godly people, and that there is no need to prepare for the hereafter. There is absolutely a need to prepare for the hereafter. But intellectual preparedness is to prepare for the world of tomorrow, right? And some of you are already waking up to the fact that we are in the propaganda wars right now, as we see the demonization of the Palestinians. And I've said over and over and over, however, where are the pro-Palestinian rights protesters speaking up for the dead Afghanis? And is it really a few 100,000 Afghanis, or is it more like 1 million? We know Russia killed 3 million. And everybody out there that has allegiance to Russia, as far as I'm concerned, can go to hell. I don't want anything to do with these individuals that are into flat earth, pro-Russia, pro-Trump, pro-Putin, and so many other levels of disinformation. You see, it's easy to be a conspiracy theorist and just copy and paste other people's information. It's another to be someone deeply connected with spirit yourself, to call out Shaitan, to call out the devils of this world, right, with bravery and confidence, and to have your own material, to engage in your own investigations. Especially the last decade, I have done my own research. There was a time where I would listen to certain folks in the alternative media, Clyde Lewis, David Icke, Alex Jones, Coast to Coast AM, even on occasion, Jeff Rentz. But I never, ever touched Kerry Cassidy with a 100-foot pole. I was always aware of that disinformation, right? Let us pray for those that are stuck into that psychosis of waiting for the white hats, right? It's like somebody cue that song, I need a hero, right? You need to be your own hero. Let's get to the point though. To the Muslims that are listening, to the immigrants that are listening, America and Americans on both the left and the right have failed you in dramatic ways. They act like they care about you, but how many of these people in America would actually help you out if you needed to hide from those that were attempting to put you into a concentration camp? How many would be helping me out, right? We know the truth. Don't fuck with me, right? We know the truth. People rather be entertained by me, right, than help me. But all that's done is harden me. All that's done is force me to grow to where I've adjusted my life to where I don't need anyone. Okay? I'm used to the isolation, either in the woods or in the desert or in some other place with a backpack, with nothing in some cases but a backpack. I'm telling you, folks, that is a very spiritual experience when you walk with God and you turn to God and only God. And not your family, but God. Only bow to God. There are many people in this world that may say, bow to me. I control you. You are my property. Bow to me or be cast away. Right? No, this is not godly. We are to serve God. And there are certain people in our world that are not serving God, but they think that's serving God. They may even point their finger and say that person's going to face judgment day, or that person's going to get recycled back into the reincarnation matrix simulation for those hip to that perspective that were being recycled over and over and over and over again. And the thing that many people don't understand in the New Age movement is they think they can get away with demonizing people from the third world and acting spiritual without realizing that they're not tapped into the ascended masters. They are more than likely channeling demons, also known as the archons, also known as the jinn. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the jinn, the archons, the watchers, right? The asuras, the demons, they are manipulating many, many people at this time. And so you are likely to see a lot of people get on board the demonization program of Muslims again. And some of them may call for internment. Where are those in the woke movement that stood up for Black Lives Matter, that have stood up for indigenous people, that have stood up for, in some cases, Hispanic people, but yet they turn a blind eye to what's happened in foreign lands? You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist, and you don't have to believe that 9/11 is something than what we were told to have compassion for the Afghan people. You can look at the official story of what was told to you about 9/11 and access higher intelligence and realize that Afghanistan was infiltrated by the Russians. Their government collapsed, right? This documentary must be made. If you want to help me, contact me. Email below, right? Educate me on the history that I don't know, right? Because the world needs to know Afghan history since it spent so much time there. Since they like to blame the Afghan immigrants so much, in some cases, even more so, even though there's a lot of racism towards Latinos, and there is concern about border safety. I understand that. I'm not full for open borders, but the hatred in which they hate the Afghani immigrant more than all the other immigrants, like they are seen as the bottom of the ethnicities. And so like, this is not something that just comes from Donald Trump and the alt-right. Joe Biden has contributed towards left-leaning white supremacy to the Afghan people by lying to the Afghan people and saying to them that the only reason that the Taliban is back in power is because the Afghans didn't fight back, as if they're cowards or something, as if the Afghani people wanted the Taliban in power. That is a lie. Joe Biden and the people that control Joe Biden know that that's a lie. So how many people that are sitting there supporting Joe Biden that think that they're against white supremacy even have the brain cells functioning properly to realize what's been done to these people? No, they don't want to believe it's that bad, but they'll sit there and talk about what was done to the Native Americans. Here, Native Americans, here's a blanket. Oh, I'm sorry, we gave you a disease with this blanket. Oh, my bad. 300 years later, oh, we love the Indians. Let us dress like the Indian. Let us put the Indian earrings. Oh, we love the Indians so much. We love the Latinos so much. We're so loving. But in reality, they keep voting in people that act like they're opposed to the right-wing agenda when they are a part of it. There is absolutely what you can call a dark agenda. Forget this left-right term, okay? But it is Satan's agenda, because they're all connected to this new world order, including Saudi Arabia. You would think that the Islamophobia folks would have been upset with Donald Trump putting his hands on the globe in Saudi Arabia, but they weren't. You would think these individuals that don't want to take the vaccine, and I'm not saying they should, I have my own concerns, but this isn't about that. We haven't been told the truth about that. But I will have you know that the fake conspiracy theories about the vaccine, like David Icke's theory about 5G causing the coronavirus and things of that nature, right? And other theories about shedding and on and on and on. These theories that people have come up with and have been fed by disinformation outlets, in some cases, encourage some people to take multiple shots because they want nothing to do with the right wing and the racism that they allow in the right wing. And so I'm off topic, right? But it's related. There's so much disinformation right now on the internet that people just take stuff and run with it, and they don't access their intuition and their intelligence. You don't have to have quote unquote higher education to have a super brain that can access a book at any time, open up a page. Here's Jarek Jensen. Every person who sells her life to a job she does not like makes choices. That her choices may be at least partially constrained by our economic system does not make them any less choices. We make choices in great measure based on how we see the world. If you see the world in a particular way, it can make some sort of sense to sell your life to a job that you do not love. Ooh, I wonder who that was for. You see, there's a lot of people out there that have sold their soul economically to jobs that they don't like, because we are slaves in this system where you are required to pay into the system for your health insurance, for your child's education, for your rent. But ladies and gentlemen, did you know that we've been forced into slavery through the tax system, through the Federal Reserve? Not to get long-winded on that, but do you know that this whole system is parasiting on us? Right? I was just thinking back in the days where I used to work at Ruth Chris Steakhouse and other restaurants in Portland, Oregon, like the London Grill, which is a 4-star hotel, Benson Hotel, right there on Broadway Street. And I've worked at other restaurants as well. What kind of a life is that for people to be dependent on tips? And that includes women in the adult industry that dance for tips. They live sad lives in reality. They are not happy people. They are not liberated. Neo-feminism, right, has used them and abused them and have turned them into the next level of slave with their OnlyFans accounts. Point is this: we are more than slaves, ladies and gentlemen. And God did not bring you into this world to be a slave to the New World Order, to be a slave to your taxes, to be a slave to your landlord, to be a slave to your spouse. Okay, that's not why we were born. That's not our purpose here. We were given a chance at life, whether you choose to call it Allah, God, or something else, but I do not call it Yahweh, right? And I do not believe that some of these things that we have been convinced are godly are godly. Again, the devil has many tricks in this world. And so people need to wake up and realize that we have been duped on so many different levels, right? Let's go with this one. Let's go with this one, because I knew years ago that we would be dealing with this situation, right? So I would collect books on this topic. Right, I would pay attention to all the articles coming out about 2025, which is likely a kickoff point as we see the peak in solar activity. And if you've been watching me for years, you know that when there are more solar flares, there are more wars. You're not going to hear this from these jokers on YouTube with their grand solar minimum theories that only talk about ice age theories and catastrophes and crop failures and repeating over and over, come with me if you want to live, right? Like they're Schwarzenegger from the Terminator or something. Watch my channel and join my cult if you want the answers to survive what is to come, right? But what are they doing to stand up against genocide? Because this is where the people that live in this culture are out of their friggin' minds, right? They think that it's okay to walk into other countries, to murder people and destroy people's lives, and then to make up lies about those people when they try to escape those lands, which their government purposely destroyed while putting the Taliban in power. The American people on the left and right are showing both you and me that many of them have no heart. And it's not just about compassion for the Palestinian or the Afghani, but many, many people around the world, and engaging in that, being an intellectual and understanding history, the history of some of these regions and some of these places, knowing about some of these historical figures, right, that did good things in Afghanistan. Now, I want to bring this up to you, and I know I'm jumping all over the page, but you need to hear a lot of these different things. And I ask you that you can either add me on Facebook, you can subscribe to my Substack, because I got way more to tell you. What documentary can you show me on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Tubi that exposes the true plight of the Afghan? This is what you see when you look up documentaries on Afghanistan. You see things from the perspective of the U.S. soldier. Look, let me explain something to you very, very simply. I consider it a sin under God's law for a man to agree to go to Afghanistan with a gun, to agree to murder Afghans in order for him to see this beautiful, beautiful place, right? Who tried to help me see my father's homeland? To eat authentic Afghani food, to see the beautiful Kush mountain range, in which some people pray to the spirits of these mountains to intervene in Afghani affairs, right? I never signed up to torture any Afghans. I never signed up to hurt any Afghans. So I'm not going to get to visit Afghanistan. And I made mistakes as a young man. So I might not even get authorized to leave the country. to go to Afghanistan. You understand how heartbroken that is? How much I am bothered by that? So these people in this society are full of fucking shit. And they act like they're compassionate, and they act like they're so loving, and they care about people. Oh, the black people, oh, the Native Americans, we love them so much. But these people over here, let them burn in hell. Even if they know in their minds, some of them, that they were not told the truth about September 11th, 2001. And I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you the truth, because those days are gone. I told you before in past videos, they put certain people in position, and you know who I'm talking about, to tell the truth on a level about 9/11, and then Trump came into power, and then they say, oh, no, what I said about 9/11, right? I take that back, bro, I take that back. Or it was the deep state, it was Hillary, it was Clinton, it was those guys, right? But the right wing, those are awesome guys. Go troops, yeah, go U.S. police forces. Blue Lives Matter. Blue Lives Matter is not about respecting police officers or the law. It's about the psychopathic mindset infused with the Punisher logo of thinking that they can kill with impunity. Just like those troops in Iraq and maybe Afghanistan that spray painted the Punisher logo on the homes of the civilians in their war against insurgents. A war that the controllers dictated that America would never, ever win. And so now you have individuals on the internet that are foaming at the mouth with rage because they're controlled by Satan. And they're saying, wait, you sent our boys to go fight these people in this country, and then you import them in mass to our country, right? And they're angry. They're angry at aspects of the government, but they're not angry with Donald Trump releasing 5,000 Taliban members. Right? So Trump can do no wrong. He could say that he could shoot somebody literally in the street and nobody will do anything about it. And nobody, he says he can grab a woman by the you-know-what. And that just seems to turn people on even more. Go, yeah, baby, hit me, baby, one more time, right? This is just evil. I looked at a guy the other night briefly who, is well known in the alternative media for involving himself in battles over Christian viewpoints with others. He likes to berate people. He likes to call people out. And he's involved in some wicked stuff. And I'm listening to him for a minute just to hear what kind of garbly-goo he's saying. And what is he doing? He's attacking Sufis. He's saying that Sufis are bringing us the new world order. I'm sorry, what? Sufis are doing what? You go to hell, man. I knew you were evil from day one. How dare you attack Sufis? If you want to sit there and talk about ISIS, talk about ISIS. You want to sit there and talk about like the people that have engaged in bombs and attacks, the people that have been brainwashed by the evil over there, fine, go ahead and do that. But you want to bring in the spiritual side of Islam and attack that as well? Oh yeah, you are serving the devil. And so is that girlfriend who's with you. And see, for years, I've met some of these individuals in the alternative media, and I knew some of them were not of pure heart. Especially when you meet some of these people in person and you look them in the eye, right? Because I'll tell you what, demons and devils, they don't want to make eye contact with you. When you look them in the eye and you're a man of God, they don't want to look back at you. They look away. I remember when a guy hired me in 2012 to help him supposedly start an alternative media network that went nowhere, right? Because he wanted to turn into an MLM scam, and I wouldn't help him promote that scam. I said, you are not going to put my face on your MLM scam. But day one, when I'm in his office, instead of shake my hand like a man and look me in the eyes, he talks to the white man that brought me to his office, who I think is my friend, who I'm staying with at the time, and he talks directly to him for 5 minutes without making eye contact with me. I'll tell you what was happening there. He was conditioning me, and he was telling me, bro, you've got no real value to me. You're nothing but a worker. I don't even have to look you in the eye when I meet you. And so a lot of these people that act like they're smart men have no respect for others. And as I said in previous videos, There are men out there with wives, some of them beautiful. There are men out there with children, right? But yet they are so ungrateful for what God has blessed them with that they will still get on the internet and troll somebody who has been traumatized by this world. A man like myself who does not have stable family support, although I've been reaching out to what family I can because of the seriousness of the global situation, right? But I have stood alone. But in doing so, it's made me stronger. In facing bias at times from both sides of the family, there's no way that I perceive either side as supreme. And in fact, there's many, many times in which people not of my ethnicity and even not of my gender have helped me more than people of my ethnicity. Either one, my mother's side or my father's side, right? I want to see and interact with some positive, conscious Muslims in the future. But if I look at the tail of the tape from the last 20 years, including a very negative situation with a doctor, right, from Pakistan, right? And a lot of things that those Pakistanis and East Indians and others have done to the Afghan people is inexcusable. Would I be surprised that he and another Pakistani burn me in a way and harm me in a way, deliberately, knowingly, without caring? What's wrong with these people? Where is their heart? So don't assume, right, that the Middle Eastern people and the bloodlines, and it's not all Middle East, you also have Southeast Asian, Central Asian. Afghanistan is bordering China, which is influencing the Taliban now, which is really scary and freaky. Because look at what the Chinese is doing to its Muslims in its country. Look at what the Taliban is doing to the Muslims in Afghanistan. It is a travesty. So where have you seen a good documentary that has covered things that's in this book, for example? Right? You know about the Northern Alliance, right? He was murdered by the Taliban when 9/11 went down, right? He was probably taken out so he wouldn't be a threat to what was coming, right? And how do we know that the Taliban at that time wasn't already linked in with aspects of things I'm not even going to get? There are things that I used to talk about for years, folks, that were beyond that. If you weren't paying attention during the 2000s and the 2010s, when all that info came out about torture and forced confessions and Abu Ghraib, where they stripped these Arabic men or Iraqi men like down to nothing and then made them stack their bodies on each other like a pyramid. There was a time, folks, in human history when people used to give a damn about that. And now they don't give a damn about that. And that is wrong. Okay. I want scholars and those that know the full truth about the situation overseas, right, to work with me if they would like to help educate me. Because frankly, guys, I don't have the time and energy to just focus on that country. I have been sitting here for years also trying to help America, despite what it's done to Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen, as it takes the money from Saudi Arabia, it takes the weapons, it takes the missiles. And then before Trump leaves office, Pompeo designates the resistance fighters in Yemen as terrorists for having the gall to want to defend themselves. How would you feel, America, as Ron Paul asked you in 2011 in a video, right? Ron Paul, anybody remember Ron Paul? Not an angel, right? But not a devil either. A lot of good things Ron Paul has said, right? How would you feel if China and Russia were occupying the United States? Would you like that, right? Would you sign up for your microchip when they take down the grid and say, come get your microchip? We'll put $100,000 on your microchip, right? Because pay attention to the digital currency in China. They're handing out free money. So what Leon told me in his prophetic warnings of what is to come to America, when I read articles about China and their digital currency, right, giving out that free money, right, they're getting people ready. They're getting people ready. And who's to say that we haven't been groomed for this as well through Bitcoin? I understand there's many, many reasons why people have gotten into Bitcoin in recent years, but there's really been a greed factor that isn't any different than Vegas or the stock market, right? And I have not seen any evidence of these Bitcoin millionaires or billionaires really doing anything charity-wise to help the Real Truth movement. The Real Truth movement would encompass people of various cultures and ethnicities around the world exposing what's going on. It wouldn't just be an Anglo-Saxon Alex Jones, Clyde Lewis, Suspicious Observers, Coast to Coast AM, SG Report, XYZ, whatever, Dave Hodges, XYZ, whatever, Jeff Prince movement. No, a true truth movement would encompass multiple languages and different levels of experience and intelligence. Let's flip to a random page now in this book and see what's told. See what we got right here. Let's look at this. The power grid, especially the nuclear component, is another likely target. The sun is one thing, and God intervening in our society through the power of the sun, that's one thing. An EMP is a totally different situation, folks. Okay, because when we deal with an EMP and a military attack on America, you're not dealing with a grid that's going to stay down for long. It's a strategic takedown of the system, and when they bring it back, right, we're going to be in the new America. If you're not already subscribed to my Substack, right, you need to do that now. Go to the Substack, subscribe to it. In fact, I have two. I have one Substack that's for the public, and then I have the No Holds Barred Substack where I go deeper and deeper into what people call racism, but I peel back the layer of the onion of what they call racism, and I talk about the social android ape hierarchy, right? Do you know what that is? That's the brainwashing going on in the minds of humans around the world, right? Only an idiot would think that, you know, we should be ignoring racism, because racism is not limited to white America, right? Racism by the woke community is only pointing the finger at white supremacy, right? That is not the truth about global racism right now. There are many, 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 many very racist East Indians right now that have been brainwashed. And there are circles, folks, of neo-Nazis that are totally okay with East Indian folks, that are totally okay with black folks, that are totally okay with light-skinned Latinos, but they have the anti-themism program. Not to be confused with anti-Semitism, listen to my words, anti-themism, even if they're not Muslims. So it's hypocritical, right, for Tucker Carlson to be associated with Andrew Tate when he's Muslim and says that the true Muslims are ISIS when that is bullshit. Andrew Tate can sit there and talk about Jordan Peterson, right, standing on the side of Israel and how that's wrong, right, and he can get support for that, but he's not being called out for saying that ISIS are the true Muslims. They're not the true Muslims, okay? They're possessed by Shaitan. They're possessed by the devil. Same thing with the Taliban, right? So you have people that are so demented in the head in this society that will hate on all Eastern teachings because of their own xenophobia, because of their own brainwashing, right? There is some truth from the teachings of Christ, but there's a big, big leap between the genuine teachings of Christ and what you're finding in a lot of these Bibles that were deliberately tampered with. And so you have a lot of people out there go, forgive the people that harmed you, forgive. But when it comes to the Middle East, not only do they not forgive, they bear false witness as they bomb with white phosphorus, as they strategically bomb with drone attacks, weddings, and then the funerals. They kill and they kill and they kill, and then they kill some more. And then sometimes these people are listening to rock music like Metallica and Megadeth instead of realizing some of the spiritual messages within Megadeth's music about the machine. Psychotron, Captive Honor, Countdown to Extinction, Peace sells, but who's buying? Foreclosure of a Dream, Set the World Afire, Elysian Fields, These are some of my favorite Megadeth songs. But do I think that Dave Mustaine is really, really awake? No. Some of these people, when they start loading up with a lot of drugs and a lot of smack, right, they may access some elements of spirit and bring it down, but there's some dark stuff too with their music, which is why I can't listen to it for long, only in short doses. Because the consciousness of these speakers is not in line with the true God. Now, you can look at my 70s and 80s playlist. What do you see there? Black and white artists. Do I think that black and white artists are superior? No, but in this culture, you're only going to hear music from blacks, whites, and the Latinos that they authorize, right? Turn the beat around. The rhythm is going to get you. You know, they'll throw in a little, but you will not be exposed to beautiful music from the Eastern world. You know, something very tragic happened when I was a child, and I regret it. I thought that it was smart of me at the age of 16 to allow some people to come over because I didn't have any friends. And I'm just gonna tell you this story, right? So we're hanging out, and my dad allows us to hang out in the apartment in Southwest Portland. And I'm hanging out with these people, these Latinos, which are probably thugs, and I think that we're friends or something. And I go to the store thinking that they're gonna call some girls over or something. I'm 16 years old. Prior to that, some other guys were over, right? I think I'm gonna throw a party at my place, and some girl thinks she's gonna strip her clothes off and turn everybody on, and then the party's over. Like, nothing crazy happened. But it's like, I think that by what happened there, some negativity opened up the door, and then something happened to me. Because as soon as everybody left and those other guys that arrived, right, I think I'm going to go to the store. What kind of a person does that? I made a mistake. I think I'm going to go to the store with my old friend Vincent, who turned into a real piece of shit. A real piece of shit. But that's another story. Yeah, the people that I was hanging out in my teenage years, they weren't the worst folks, but they weren't the best folks. Point is, we go to the store thinking that I can trust these guys in my living room, and they steal items from the living room while my father's in the next room. And they steal a rack of my father's CDs from his country that he had been collecting for years, right? And I'm sorry that happened, but those were irreplaceable. And so, you know, even before 9/11 happened, I was experiencing these spiritual attacks. There's a guy, by the way, who was a Portland wrestler, right? He was a Portland wrestler in the 1960s and the 1970s. And, you know, it looks like I'm on the internet right now. So I'm actually going to go to Google, because I want to give you his name. So this, I'm showing my age now that I don't remember his. I don't remember his name. Dutch Savage. Dutch Savage died at the age of 78 several years ago. Dutch Savage was doing a Christian program at Portland Cable Access in 2005, in 2006, around the same time period in which I was doing Outside the Box TV. And because I didn't get out of the studio fast enough, right, this supposed Christian said to me, "You Arabs are all the same." For no fucking reason. Excuse my French if you're offended by it, but I got to speak freely, right? For no reason. I didn't mess with him. The fake news of 2014 hadn't arrived yet, right? But he's going to talk down to me because of September 11th. But yet he professes to be a Christian. Several weeks ago, I went to 5 churches in 2 hours trying to find my spiritual family, trying to find my tribe. And there are people that will talk down to me and say, "You got to find your tribe." No shit, Sherlock. What do you think I've been trying to do through my work for 20 years, right? You think this is fun for me? You think I'm sitting there chatting with people all day long? I've been in full-on isolation for years because of the dark side of the conspiracy theory that threw the Afghani people away. Instead of looking at the real 9/11 truth and the history of Afghanistan, how they implanted the Taliban on purpose, right? How they did not truly, right, assist the Mujahideen in taking back their country. They let them fall into factions after they armed them to the teeth, right? You think you can learn about that from Charlie Wilson's War? This stupid, stupid movie with Tom Hanks. These movies can't teach you anything, and these documentaries aren't teaching you anything. Here's another book. We'll flip to a random page, see what comes up. They suppose that what profits a human being is transparent to rational scrutiny and that all evil will diminish with education and political reorganization. But they overlook not only the fact that increased violence and desire for blood often accompanies so-called progress in civilization, but also that human beings have a deep, soft sort of desire, a desire for truly independent willing to exhibit their own freedom. The underground man insists they will deliberately choose that which is harmful and self-destructive. So again, many people today have sold their souls to a certain degree, or they've harmed their souls, or they've harmed their body by giving all their time and energy to corporations. And not only that, we're buying all the time from corporations, either from Amazon, or from some other organization, or Alibaba, or Ecstasy, as it's called, or eBay, or Walmart. And so we live in a tightly controlled world right now. Now, Walmart has a lot of interesting books, but they don't have anything about Afghanistan. Again, everything is from the soldier's perspective in Afghanistan. What about a perspective from a young Afghani girl? I believe there is a book called A Thousand Splendid Suns, which I have upstairs. Don't think I have it down here. This is a book by John Ronson called Them, right? Early experiences with Alex Jones, early experiences with David Icke before they became super corrupted. But even back in the day, right, these folks weren't totally right in the head. And that's another conversation that a lot of people aren't ready for. But to have truth movement people and New Agers, like another guy that I'm thinking about who has the ranch, the UFO Skywatching Ranch in the Pacific Northwest, right? It's amazing that he can have so many followers of people that claim that they're full of love and light, like hippie types, people that have gone away from organized religion and they're looking for spirituality, right? Nature, things like that. They want to know about the UFOs, right? They want to watch the UFOs. They want to watch the lights in the sky. And they think that's the alien agenda. That's what you have right now in society. And the controllers of this society, they know how dumb the human species is. And there's many people that point their finger, right? The sheeple, while failing to see their own sheeple-like nature. Just like there's a lot of people that said, I won't take the vaccine, I will not be jabbed. Fine, you will not be jabbed. I heard you, bro, I heard you. Bro, I heard you, you were loud and clear. Here's the question though, did you reject the propaganda jab of saying, oh, don't talk about white supremacy or you're anti-white. Just talk about the plight of white people. Just talk about the plight of African Americans and ignore the Third World War and the Third World, both the Third World War and the Third World, because they brought World War to the Third World, right? And then they want to act like these people don't have a right to live. These people that are supposedly love and light and intelligent, right? They don't realize that there are people that have been immigrating from these places for years that are not terrorists, that came from a system of education. My father's father, I know little about him at present, but he was involved with the police, with the military, and with the educational system. Right? So instead of pictures of him with a long, long beard, he's wearing a suit. I put up a picture of him one day on Facebook. Somebody says he looks like Saddam Hussein. That's all they can think of, right? He looks like Saddam Hussein. They can't think, oh, wow, look at these people that had a society and a culture before the Taliban, right? Where the women are not wearing burqas and they're eating at restaurants in Kabul, right? Because there are Afghans that are traumatized by knowing the true history of their country and what has been done to it, right? But the problem is, as I said, the conspiracy movement in America became so hateful and so corrupt that even though they have the intelligence that God gave them, because they're being manipulated by demons and the dark side of the alien reality, while everybody's looking in the sky at SpaceX rockets and shit, the real alien agenda, they're ignoring. And they're ignoring that dark, gray, reptilian, alien consciousness within themselves. It's said in certain religions that every human is born with a jinn. And you have people here in this world that think they know something about psychic self-defense. Here's a book by Dylan Fortune, Psychic Self-Defense, written 100 years ago. However, right, she is not free herself of the illusions of separation. Despite pushing back against Adolf Hitler in the 1940s, check out the book Magical Battle of Britain. And if you want to talk more about that in a group, maybe we can talk about how we can apply certain prayers involving Christ, involving God, involving perhaps other spiritual deities, right? To bring about a positive change. But it's amazing how these people are real quick to point their finger at Indian people or other ethnic people as being of the devil because they have weird feelings about them when they're near them. The reality is a lot of human beings have a biological imperative to where their bodies have been programmed in a way in Shaitan's world to be repelled by certain people from foreign lands. They won't know why they're repelled by them, but it's literally in their wiring. You see, there is a dark history that our society has, but some of us literally are powerful souls that got thrust into these genetics, or in my case, combination of genetics, just like you. And so just because we have a history of bloodshed in some regions of the world between groups like the Muslims and the Crusaders, right? We need to be evolving beyond that. Clyde Lewis used to say something that I'm sure he's not saying now that he's in with InfoWars. He would say several things, in fact. And I got a lot more info coming to me, so let me remember this. We need to stop thinking with our 13th century brains, and we need to start thinking with our 21st century brains, right? The other thing that Clyde said back in the day, which I'm sure he's not talking about anymore, is Shekinah. That when Iraq was being bombed in 2003, they called it shock and awe, which sounded like Shekinah, which some say is a Babylonian and or Sumerian deity from the Mesopotamian world, the pre-Islamic Middle Eastern world. And so there are people out there that have theories about giants and fallen angels and Nephilim and this, that, and the other. The hypothesis is, what if the U.S. military has been bombing purposely certain holy lands in the world to bring rise to these demons? Now, think about the earthquakes in Afghanistan. Think about the recent article about the changes in the Earth's core. And I've even seen certain people warn about future earthquakes in Afghanistan and Pakistan and other areas, and it's happening. But as people freaked out about Fukushima and acted like that was the end of the world, which it wasn't, not that I think that the oceans are clean, not that I trust the quality of fish that's coming out there. I don't eat Walmart fish. But I sure missed that trip with my grandpa in the 80s to Newport, Oregon to have some fish and chips right by the sea. I also need to remind you of this. I was doing a live stream during the eclipse and I spoke for 2 hours and they censored me, which is why this is being recorded. And so you do have permission to share this with others, but you do need to understand that the vast majority of your conspiracy friends are going to be against me. The vast majority of the individuals that watch my shows over the years, they're not on my side. They're on Alex Jones's side. They still don't have the intelligence, no matter how much I talk to them, they still don't have the intelligence to realize that there's way more truth in what I am saying than what they are saying. And I am not promoting hate of any group. And even though I push back against anti-themism, even though I push back against racism, I'm not engaging in anti-white racism. Because the fact of the matter is, this manufactured anti-white racism, and I can give you a few examples, threatens the life of my mother, which, thank God, has been protected for many years, where she happens to reside, right? And I hope that that continues. But the fact of the matter is, this anti-white sentiment that is rising is resulting in elderly white women being beaten and harmed in America's largest cities. And this is not going to go away. So let me give you a couple examples of what might be considered anti-white racism. Headlines like this: is it time to start robbing white people? I'm sorry, what? Is it time to start robbing white people? And then you have the reparations discussion. It's one thing if you want to help African Americans, but we can have a conversation as to what that is. Telling the country that in California, you're going to give them all a big fat check is only going to cause even rage and more crime in other African American communities in America, in real ghettos where there is no health care and there is no dental care, right? So I haven't necessarily gone on a bandwagon for health care because any nation involved in genocide doesn't really give a damn about your health care. But as we get older, as we get closer to 50 years old and 60 years old, right? We end up in some cases going to the hospital because of certain ailments. And because this medical model doesn't care about people and does not understand ethnic people, because ethnic people from foreign lands that are indigenous of the East, like where my father comes from, right? I don't believe that certain genetics are meant to take certain medications for their heart if they have high cholesterol, right? I went through that situation. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking this for high cholesterol. I'm going to get back to working out. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to cut out certain things. I'm going to make lifestyle changes. And I did my homework on the internet, and I'm way more aware of the pharmaceutical industrial complex corruption than I ever have been at any point in time. But this point needs to be made clear. It's not a one size fits all when it comes to all genetics. No, not all genetics and people are meant to eat the same food or to eat the quality of food from McDonald's. And there's more reasons than religion and Islam, just so you know, for people deciding not to eat of the pig. Okay? I got a book called On Demonology by an Exorcist by J.P. Haggard. He doesn't want to do an interview with me. And I can guess probably why. He may himself be lost in the illusion of separation. In fact, he was quite rude to me when I sent him an interview request. But that aside, he, from a Christian perspective, does not eat of the pork. Until it's like years ago when I saw these shows on cable TV where they got a big old pig and they got a TV show about how you can just eat as much of the pig. And I'm just like feeling grossed out by the show. Like, this is a culinary show. Just this obsession with, you know. And so there are things that opened up my eyes from reading J.P. Haggard's book. So understand, a lot of people in this world will have nothing to do with me. I sent 5 interview requests out, right? Even using a pen name, right? No reply. So I don't want people to feel bad that I don't engage directly too much with my audience. It's nothing personal. It hasn't turned out for me very well historically to engage with my viewers directly, okay? If you're a truth speaker and you are of the light, you need to just be outputting and outputting and outputting your light and let God help you. Have more faith in God than in man, and in some cases, family. I went walking today, like I usually went walking, and my half-hour walks turned into an hour walk, and my hour walk has turned into a 2-hour walk, and I pump iron. more than I did before, where I didn't work out for a few years. And then I felt a calling to go to the grocery store. And what do I find, right? A big old slab of sirloin steak meat for $12, discounted from $28 because it's at the expiration date. And that's great because meat is expensive. And although it may not be grass-fed and organic, I appreciate that. And then I check out and I look at the numerology. All the time now I look at the numerology, right? 77 or 777. You know, what's my bill with that in the juice? 1616, and I'm looking down 77. This stuff really started to kick off for me in the last month. From seeing 1111 all the time to 555 to 444, like the mass abundance of 444 and 144 and 441, 144 reversed, and then 911 and then 119. And I'm thinking, why are you showing me 911? That's making me think about 911. I'm not liking this, spirits, God, angels. What's this 9/11 stuff I'm constantly seeing? I don't want to think about 9/11. I don't want to think about what they did. But no, 9/11 is a spiritual number also, right? Let's look at it right now since we're online. The spiritual meaning of 9/11, okay? Because when you start seeing numbers, you go to Google and you type in angel number meaning. It's a sign that a new phase of your life is about to begin and that you'll have a fresh start soon. Spiritually, 9/11 means that your guardian angels think you're ready for a new spiritual development or awakening. Now, the next thing that I need to say, and then we're going to bring this to a close at 1 hour. And I invite you, right, to follow my work at my Substack and to follow my work elsewhere, because I'll be speaking much more in the future regarding these things. When these events come to pass, first of all, you should help out, even if they're foreigners and immigrants or the children of immigrants. You should be willing to help people out in an underground railroad in the same way in which slaves escaping the South were helped by people in the North, in the same way in which some white Americans helped some black Americans when they're escaping slavery. We need a resurgence of the Underground Railroad in the future, in the event of certain things coming to pass. And take a look at a previous blog of mine regarding Escape from New York, made in 1996, the predictive programming of the undesirables being put on a high-tech prison island with no way of escaping. The next thing that I'm going to talk about are Chinese immigrants, right? And Asian Americans. And what do you think I'm going to say? Knowing that I'm a man of compassion, that I'm not a man of hate, you should already know what I'm going to say right now. And if you don't already know what I'm going to say right now about Chinese Americans, you're not paying attention very well. Even if this is entertainment for you, right? You should be paying attention to the moral compass that I have and not be confused by it. There's nothing confusing about my attempts to lead you to the true light and the true God. Snap out of it for those that are confused and are not sure if they can serve two masters or not, right? Chinese Americans are worthy of our protection. Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, Japanese Americans, Korean Americans, Vietnamese Americans didn't do shit to you or anybody. They're just trying to exist. So nothing harmful should happen to them in a supposed conscious love and light society that's becoming ascension-like and going to 5D. No, you don't have a society that's ready to back up your local Chinese restaurant when the you-know-what hits the fan and China is attacking America. Because if you think that there's not going to be discrimination towards Asian Americans when China attacks or may attack, then you haven't been paying very much attention during the coronavirus lockdowns. You were perhaps watching too much David Icke, Jeff Rense, and Alex Jones as if they're really being held back by the man. You should have been paying attention to those reports as Donald Trump calls it the China flu, as we saw an increase in Asian Americans being beat up, in many cases, by blacks, but society says you can't call out anti-Asian racism from blacks. Let me tell you a story. In 2007, I tried to interview people on what they thought about the bombing of Iran when there were tensions with Iran at that time. And I talked to one black man by Pioneer Courthouse Square, and he said to me, "Aren't you one of those little bastards Aren't you Iranian? And then I said to him as they walked away, you don't know anything about racial equality. And that was not the only time that I faced discrimination from Black Americans. Not all, but enough to realize that they have been brainwashed in the same way. Let me give you another example. I was watching a YouTube channel by an individual who we had some positive words between us in the past. He watched my content in the past. And by the way, many people that watch my content in the past, the old Alex, will not watch the new Alex because the new Alex has far more intelligence and intuition and light within him. Like for a minute there, I was surprised that my YouTube channel and my viewers will not come over to my Substack. Now I know why. Because a lot of them are not of the light and they're being brainwashed by the YouTube algorithm. This individual that I thought was on the up and up interviews a Black veteran at a bar who proceeds to brag about testing out high-tech American weapons on what he called goat herders. Do you understand how I felt listening to that, seeing that guy talk to that other guy and talk about murdering innocent goat herders, experimenting with weapons like these are insects or something? So the people on the right want to act like they're all about freedom and standing against the CCP and censorship. In many ways, the far right is in line with China. And in many ways, the far left is being manipulated and is in line with China. And the level of intelligence in today's culture and society is so dumbed down, they don't even realize that their pants are sagging. Pull your pants up. Seriously, it's totally unbecoming. They don't even realize how dumbed down they've become. And there are people out there that think that they are awake, that they are serving natural law as they listen to Mark Passio even, and fail to call out the genocide that's right in front of them. Ladies and gentlemen, my email is down below. I will now be uploading this to Facebook and perhaps some other places. And I pray in the name of Jesus Christ that you will overcome the demonic forces that may be holding you back from seeing reality as it is. Stay safe. Get prepared. Take care.